Thank you for joining us here live before Memorial Weekend. Excited to be joined by Dr. Brandon Mowinkel at Milford Public Schools. We'll do a formal introduction here in just a second, but want to give you some context of why we're doing this. So, Brandon and I talked shortly after his dissertation and getting his doctorate. And as we kind of were discussing and talking about what the future of education looks like and what our initiative here at Future Ready Educators is, it just made sense for us to collaborate and to share some of the exciting things that he's doing at Milford High School as the principal. And that's around helping students develop their passion, their purpose, and leaving high school with one employable job skill. And so that's what this conversation is about. We hope you find a ton of value. Brandon, you can go ahead and unmute here. Excited to have you on. He's done lots of different things at Milford High School. We've worked together on the Strive side and with his wife, Shelly, who's joining us here as well in the business department. They've just done an incredible job of doing these three things in schools. And so it just made sense for us to come together and to kind of kick off the summer with some great professional development for those of you joining live. And then you can always go back and watch the recording. We'll share out the slides here for you. So, Brandon, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me here today. It's a good time.
You bet. So I'll give you a second here. Go ahead and share your screen and we'll get started. He's got some slides for you to kind of follow along, and we'll make sure these are available to you. We'll share these publicly, so those of you that watch the training and follow along in the recording, you can actually have these slides. Just kind of guide the conversation. So, Brandon, I'll let you take it away here and kind of share how you have used this at Milford High School.
Yeah, thanks, Taylor, and thanks for having me on. And I look forward to see where this discussion continues to go, even after today and in the future, in the months and years to come. But I think this is the perfect time to do one of these as we enter the summer months and time of reflection. And I find self-reflection and journaling very valuable in what I do. And I think what you're going to see here is the product of that reflection over many, many years. And it continues to build, it continues to grow. Actually, last night I was reading a book and I pulled a couple things out that I think will fit perfectly into this as we move forward, as I plan for next year and what we're doing. So as Taylor said, I'm Brandon Mowinkel, and I'm principal at Milford Junior Senior High School, and I've been here for now 21 years, and I'll get to a little bit more of that here in a second. But one of the things that I think is very valuable for me is I have been in the same place for 21 years, and I've seen the growth here in the district, within our teachers, within our community, and it starts around our theme and our mission, vision, and belief statements. And every district has one of these. And what's really, really cool for me is this one, I've been a part of every iteration of this specific mission statement. We started this, I think, in 2005 or 6, somewhere around there. I remember going to the ESU and starting the process of redoing this document. And it's really cool to see this grow. And like I said, every district has one of these. For us, ours is centered around the story premise and how we can write better stories for our students, our staff, and our community. But I also love, to touch on mission statement real quick, pretty much everybody's mission statement in some regard is to produce productive citizens. And that's, when you boil them down, that we're trying to produce productive citizens wherever they may fall in this world. But what I love about ours is our belief statements down there are everything we want our students to do, but not just in the classroom. And a lot of schools have these similar ones. Career and college ready. We want students to appreciate the fine arts. We also want them to behave morally. And then the last one down there came a number of years ago. We were at a board meeting, actually, and we were having a discussion about how we want our students to be perceived on a larger scale, and that compete honorably came out of one of our board members. So this is truly a document that has everybody's input in it. It's something we live by, and it starts with that motto at the top of everyone has a story makers we're telling. So I'm not going to go into the whole story, and a lot of people here, and Shelly lived this too, know the story of where everyone has a story, make yours worth telling, our motto came from. It came from this book by Donald Miller, A Million Miles in a Thousand Years. This first came to be in 2010. So this has been around a while too. And everything that we do is based around, like I said, the premise of story and writing better stories for each other. And then we ask ourselves these questions, along with a lot of other questions too. But this is kind of what drives us both as we're working with students, as I'm working with staff, and then as the community as a at large. You know, we all have stories we live each and every day. What are those stories saying? What are we conveying through the stories that we're telling, that we're sharing? Are we living our best story possible? How are our students writing better stories for ourselves? But then we have a responsibility in that as well, is how are we supporting our students in that journey? And then what will all of our legacies be at the end of the day? What is the final chapter? What is that grand narrative saying about our time here? And that includes our students. And I work a lot with our students, and I'm going to get to that here in a second with, you know, at the end of the day, what is the legacy the class of 2023 left here at Milford High School? Because there will be one. And there is a story to share about your class. And so, so we start with the motto, everyone has a story, make yours worth telling. We use these questions to help drive our conversations. And then kind of my story, because we all have a path that we've walked, that you can't escape. Like, our stories are important to where we're going. And especially when you're in a position where you're influencing young adults and their next chapter in life. And we want maybe the lessons we learned throughout our stories to help them make decisions as they grow older too. And so, as I said before, I've been at Milford for 21 years. I started as a shop teacher, was assistant principal for a few years, and then I've spent the last 11 years, just finished my 11th year as the principal here. I'm also a husband. Shelly's on this today. She also teaches here at Milford. So thank you, wife, for being here. I'm also a father, have 3 kids. And then I just graduated 2 weeks ago from Doane University with my doctorate in leadership. And not surprising to anybody that knows me, my dissertation was on the power of storytelling amongst secondary school administrators. So I dug into the stories that administrators tell their students and why they tell them. And so that's just a very brief summary of me and the path that we've walked here at Milford Public Schools to get to where we're currently standing at today, our current narrative. So Taylor, do you have your hand raised?
I did. I just wanted to see if you saw that.
I did.
Awesome intro. And before we get into the main part, could you go back to the foundation upon which we build? I just kind of want to jam on that just a little bit. So how does that look? So how does that look for you to integrate that with your staff? How has that just been ingrained because you're preaching it? Because I think one of the things I've noticed or seen in schools is they've got the mission statement and the belief statement hung up on the wall, and same with businesses and other organizations, not just schools, that they just kind of have it there, but are they actually living it out? How do you integrate this into the stories each day with your staff specifically, so that then it trickles down to the students? What, you have an example? And maybe that's a whole nother training. I don't want to detract us from this,
Yeah.
but I think it needs to be, I'd like your kind of thoughts on that.
That's a really good question, because I think we all struggle with that, right? How do you make these things have longevity, and how do they have an impact? And we've actually created an onboarding process where all of our new staff reads the book, or should read the book. We have a Google Classroom set up with reflection questions for them as they're coming on board to Milford Public Schools. We actually give them 6 books. They don't read all 6. They read portions of the 6, because each one is a part of our story and how we got to where we're at and then where we want to go. So obviously, A Million Miles in a Thousand Years by Donald Miller is one of those. One Word by John Gordon is another one of those. And then we have some instructional pieces too, some Marzano work, some instructional design work. And they don't read all of those. It's just pieces of those. And that gives them the foundation upon which we build. And then it is our responsibility as leaders within the district to keep that at the forefront of what we do. And we've branded it here at Milford Public Schools. You see it walking down the hallways. It's permanently displayed in places, but we also have to continue to use that verbiage in those conversations we have. And you will hear people talk about how does that benefit your story? What story are you telling? What story do you want to write? And so it has become ingrained, but we have a really unique opportunity this next year. We, in this building, we've had quite a bit of changeover due to retirement. It's been great having the same people here for a really long time, because that is your foundation. But then what do you do when those people eventually retire? Because everybody leaves. And so I think we have a process in place to keep that foundation there. We as leaders just have to continue to build upon that and keep that at the forefront of our conversations. You have to frame it using stories in what you do if you're going to really carry that out. All right, so I'm going to go down to, so in 2012, I got the principal role here. Once again, I had been here, which was a really good benefit. I brought some challenges along the way too, but I wanted to help build upon what we were trying to do with our broader mission statement and our belief statements. And this came through a lot of self-reflection too. But what I really started to do was working with juniors and seniors and preparing them as they walked from Milford Public Schools out into the world. How are we preparing them? And then how can I take what those belief statements say and go a step further? And so I came up with this philosophy of, well, if every kid could leave here with one passion and one employable job skill, we're probably doing our job, along with all of those other belief statements of problem solving, writing, reading with comprehension, the math part. Like, those are all basic skills. But if we can get them one employable job skill and one passion to follow in life, we're probably doing the right thing. And so I work with our students, but the passion part, what really opened my eyes to what may be out there was this book right here, Steal Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. I've read this book, I don't know, over 20 times. And I've given it to, I don't know how many copies of this book I've given away, but we also buy it for all of our seniors now as they prepare to go out into the world. And I speak with them at least 5 times their senior year, and at least once is their junior year, to kind of set the tone of, okay, what are your passions in life and where are we going? And I focus on 2 passages, and they're on page 47 and 48. The one on 47 talks about stories, which fits perfectly into what we're doing here. So it's like a perfect connection. Like, write the kind of story you like best, write the story you want to read. And so I use that with students. And then we go over to page 48. And I think this was kind of the aha moment for me in 2014 that really changed my thinking on, okay, how do I help support the broader picture of our mission and belief statements? And, draw the art you want to see, start the business you want to run, basically do the work you want to see done. And so I work with our seniors on this as they're preparing to go out into the world. What is that one passion that you have in life? But what I really like about how Cleon frames this in his book is, you have to have hobbies, you have to have side projects, and you never know where those are going to lead. But at the same time, you have to have something that pays the bills. Like, you can't just blindly follow your passion in life. Yeah, I may love to do photography, and I've had some amazing experiences personally with being able to shoot games. For DNEB preps in 2020, during COVID, I got to go to Shickley and shoot the D2 state 8-man final, which was a tremendously cool experience. But I still have a day job. I still pay my bills with that. And I don't know if photography will ever be the job I have that pays all the bills, but it's something I love to do. And that's what Cleon says, is like, find those things that you love to do. What do you love to do when you should be doing something else? But at the same time, be a productive citizen and find a way to connect the two together, if at all possible. And so here at Milford, we try to provide those opportunities to students. And One of the things that we have, obviously, we have Strive, which draws in a good number of students. They get to do something, and the problem solving skills that they learn, and the skills and talents that they share, is tremendous. But we also have what's called senior seminar, and students that are seniors can explore anything they want. And we've had a kid do photography. We had a kid make a fly fishing pole one year. So, uh, like many schools, your seniors are kind of, especially in small schools, rural schools, I think, sometimes run out of things to take as seniors. And so we've incorporated, or classes to take, we've incorporated this into it so they can really explore any avenue they want to with what we call senior seminar. And then dual credit's a big portion of that too. Getting their foot in the college door, and being able to take as many credits as they want. SENCAP, Southeast Nebraska Career Academy program, is another one. My soon-to-be senior daughter is taking the ag program, so she'll have 12 credits of ag when she leaves. 12 college credits of ag when she leaves Milford High School, on top of English and math. So when you're talking about those passions, if you're going to preach it, you have to have opportunities for kids. And we have a robust exploratory program. Shelley can probably speak more to this, but trying to find opportunities for kids to just explore passions they may not know they even have. And so that's a big part of what we do. So the first part of that is finding passions. And also in the Cleon book, he talks about traveling. And I find this some of the most rewarding experiences I have as an educator is when I get to travel with students to places that they've never been before, or get on an airplane for the first time, or turn the corner to Times Square and see all those people, and you see the moment of panic on their face, like, oh my gosh, one, I'm in New York City standing in Times Square, and two, there's a lot of people here, and it's not like Milford, Nebraska, which is awesome because they need to go out and explore and see what the big city is like, and see all the different people that are out there. And I think here at Milford, we do a really good job of getting kids out into the world and seeing those things, whether it's through our career and technical organizations and them qualifying for national events. Our fine arts program, we take a every other year trip. We go to San Francisco one year, New York City the other. And those are those pictures down there at the bottom. The one picture is at Nashville for National FCCLA, obviously San Francisco with the Golden Gate Bridge in the background, and then standing on the stage at Radio City Music Hall. Like, you never know when those experiences are going to spark a passion in somebody. We also take kids to Washington, D.C. every other year for close up, and they get to explore our government, which I think is extremely valuable, and just letting them see how our federal government works and operates. And I happened to be out there this last spring with our students that were there, and I got to sit in on a meeting with our students and Representative Flood, which was really cool to see our students interact with a congressional member, and that was just a really cool experience. So I think travel is a big part of that too, for having students find their passion at this moment. And that was the other thing we talk about. Your passion when you're 18 years old doesn't have to be your passion for the rest of your life, but this passion may lead to a different passion later. And so you got to have something that ties you back to your bigger picture in your mind of what you want in the future. And just once again, my personal journey here is I love to do photography, and I've had some really cool experiences, not only photographing Milford High School students, but the picture in the top right there, that is that D2 final game from Shickley. Burning down Port Shickley and Sandhills played that night. It was a beautiful night and beautiful sunset. And the other picture in the bottom left there is Norris and Aurora, and that was a really, really cool night as well. So anyway, that's how I kind of try to live out what we're talking about, is having a passion and living that out. So Taylor, do you have a question? Or
Yeah, I was just gonna just kind of comment on I love you've talked about those travel experiences, but to hear you say it now in this context, it finally clicked with me on how much of an impact that can have, the memories I guarantee you ask any alumni from Milford, hey, what was the most valuable or best experience of your high school career? They're all going to refer back to those trips. Guarantee. It's not going to be what happened in the classroom. And so kudos to you guys. I know not every school can do that, but maybe you could. Maybe you could. And maybe someone watching this recording or even live, I think that's where it really, what you just said really connects with what we're trying to do, is bridging that gap between the classroom and the future of work. That's those type of experiences do that for students. So there's awesome things happening inside the classroom, but it's so powerful for students when they do leave the classroom, and that's the school's job, is to provide those opportunities. Um, and so kudos to you. Do you, one thing on this, your personal kind of photography, I'm assuming the students see you taking the photos and they see that. Has that sparked any conversation with students going, wow, that's really cool, Mr. Mowinkel, that you're kind of living out your passion, even though you're our principal?
Yeah, actually, quite frequently. And it is when you're standing in the corner at a game, supervising a game, and whether you have your camera or not that night, kids know that. So the journalism kid may stand next to you, and you just spark up a conversation. I'll ask, "Hey, what shots have you got tonight?" And then we talk about, like, what's your favorite shot from tonight, or what's one that didn't work out. And so yeah, it's those are the really cool conversations you get to have. And then when you say, "Hey, let's frame this a little differently," like, where could you go in the gym to take a different angle of that shot? Everybody is getting this picture standing up at this level, this height level, drop down lower or go up on the wrestling deck and shoot from there. So yes, absolutely. And those are the fun conversations you get to have. All right. So the second part of that was employable job skills. So if you're following your passion, but as Cleon said in the book, you still have to make a living, and you still have to be able to pay the bills, and you still want to be a productive citizen. And so the second part of that is we want our students to leave here with a job skill that they could walk into a business or industry and say, look, I've got training on this. Why don't you hire me? And right now in the market where everybody's looking for employees, it's even more valuable, because if you have skills such as this, so we have our own screen printing lab, we do our own vinyl, we do our own screen printing here. So this is from 2021, this picture, these sets of pictures. Our students printed all of our junior high track sweats and had to number them and cut out them individually. Talk about a tremendously good skill to have. Like, there was a lot that went into this project, 125 pairs of sweats, but we saved money because we were able to do them in-house, and our kids learned a valuable skill. And I think we here credit to all of our career and technical teachers. Each of those people have that same passion of, look, we want to send kids out into the world with a skill, whether that's welding or the ag department, or Shelly with her business management leadership kids. They're all working together for that same purpose. And then really cool things happen when you have that laser-like focus. And this is our Pro Start kids. And we've had Pro Start, it's a culinary arts program, for about 15 years here at Milford. And our kids every year just absolutely do a tremendous job. And we have qualified for nationals, I think, 7 times out of those 15 years. And this is this past year. And kudos to Cheryl Meyer Thompson, who started this, Joyce Potoff, who continued it, and now Mallory Gregory, who leads our Pro Start FCS program. Our kids get to go to Washington, our kids got to go to Washington, D.C., and compete against the best programs in the nation. And you're talking about schools that are career academy type schools, that this is what they do all day. They do culinary arts all day, along with the regular coursework. Our kids do this one period a day and are super successful at it. And you talk about a job skill. Any of these kids could go out into the world and get a job in a restaurant today. I know they could, because they have the skills to do that. And they get a really cool experience. I've got to go spend the week in Washington, D.C., and cook food on top of it. So, and then obviously the Strive is a good component of that. And then this last year, this young lady on the left there, her and another student got to go and walk the runway at the Omaha Fashion Week. They designed their own dresses and sewed their own dresses, which was phenomenal. And they got chosen to be a part of Omaha Fashion Week. And you talk about just an amazing experience that ties passion and employable job skills together. That was it. And then her second semester dress, as you can see here, that's 1,000 pages of a book. Those are pages of a book that she sewed together in this beautiful dress. And you talk about job skills, like think about how many things went into that project alone that she can carry with her out into any employer that is related to any of these. So yeah, Taylor, go ahead.
That's really cool. I couldn't tell what that was, so that's incredible. What is she doing now? Is she graduated?
Oh, she'll be a junior. She's
Oh,
young.
okay, you said that. Okay,
She'll be a junior.
awesome. Well, I
So
want to give a shout out to Owen, who is the
yeah,
student in the second to the left there at Pinnacle Bank Arena. So one of the really cool parts in Nebraska is we have connection with our state events, which we want to try to replicate in other states too, and trying to get students to help produce the state events. So it's kind of like it's their state championship for broadcasting. And Owen is one of those kids that really gravitated towards the program. And I mean, did he start in junior high or not quite?
yeah,
Maybe he did.
yeah,
And Brandon got him connected with us because he was passionate about it. And that led to then us hiring him when he graduated high school to be on our support team. And then what's really cool about Owen is his passion changed. He got really passionate about going into some ministry stuff and outdoor management, and but still always appreciated what he learned through this. And so he's a great example of that passion changing but developing some great skills that led to what he's doing. And so just wanted to kind of call that out, that he ended up getting a job from us. Wasn't a career for him, but it was something that led to then some other opportunities next. So I love that. I love his story.
yep, absolutely. That's a prime example of what we're trying to do is Owen right there. So so anyway, so for about 5 years, it was passion, employable job skills. Okay, that's how, as a leader of this building, I can add to what we're trying to do of everyone has a story makers are telling. But as I was speaking and I was working with kids and going through the Cleon book, there was always something missing, and I could not put my finger on it. Like, okay, we have a passion and we have employable job skills, but what there, it seemed like there needed to be a third. And as I was reading, and um, here is the whole list of books. I'm not sure where this purpose piece came from, but it was influenced by all of these books. And so I think it was 2018 or 19. I'm like, it clicked with me, and I'm like, oh yeah, the last triad of that is purpose. What is our purpose? Like, how can we influence the greater communities in which we live? Because if you have a passion, that's great. You're following something for yourself. It may impact others, but for yourself, obviously, employable job skills. We're being a productive student or citizen, but if we have a purpose, we're impacting the greater community. And so that became the third part of this, and it fit perfectly with everything we were trying to do. It wasn't something else we had to add to it. It was something we were already doing. If you haven't read this book, What to Do When It's Your Turn, and It's Always Your Turn by Seth Godin, it's a really, really good read. I highly recommend it just as much as the Cleon book, but anything by Gooden is usually pretty good. But I think this is probably had the greatest influence on the purpose piece. But like I said, I don't necessarily remember exactly what piece I was reading when that came to be. But so within our school community, what is that purpose? And it's through our organizations, and whether that's Key Club, Student Council, FCCL, FBLA, FFA. It's through our service organizations that we can have a greater impact on our larger community. Our students have done that. And excuse me, between 2018 and 2021, right after the pandemic, we had 6 students that were FCCLA state officers and 1 student that was an FCCLA national officer. We also had the international president of Key Club. She got to ride in the Rose Bowl parade because they had found a purpose that they felt was worth exploring at a young age. And when we talk about this with students, it doesn't have to be school oriented. It could be within your church. It could be within the groups your mom and dad are involved in. It could be within 4-H. But what is that purpose where you're giving back to the community in which you serve? And so when students leave Milford High School, we want to make sure that we're providing them that strong foundation through our mission and belief statement, but also that we want them to have that passion to impact their purpose and their role in the community, but then also just to be employed, to go out if they're not college bound, what is that employable job skill that you have that you could go downtown and roof or pour concrete or go to a screen printing shop and say, I have these skills, will you offer me a job? And I think that's no more valuable than right now when everybody is looking to try to find employees for their workplaces. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell here. And this, as I said at the beginning, this came from a lot of self-reflection. I love to journal. I write lots of things down. I keep notes from books, and I reflect upon those. And I just did that this morning. I took about a half hour to reflect upon a quote that I came across the other day and how that might impact us moving into 2023. But I'm going to go back here a second. A lot of these books that are listed here on the right side are pretty common ones out in the management, leadership, business world. But the one that I think is probably going to be where we start next year is Thanks 1,000 by AJ Jacobs. And his goal is to set out and thank 1,000 people for his morning cup of coffee. How did that cup of coffee get into his hands? And he wanted to thank everybody along the way. And what a tremendously rewarding experience for him. And obviously he wrote a book about it. There's a TED talk about it. But I've been really reflecting on that whole premise of saying thank you. And recognizing people for the work that they did. So anyway, passion, purpose, employable job skill. That's what my educational philosophy, and that will change as I move forward too. And I think it'll always probably be somewhere based around those 3 tenets. And it will always be based around the premise of story and how we write better stories for ourselves. But that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. This is sparked a lot of different thoughts for me, and I know we've got some guests watching that they're not logged into FRE, so they can't see the chat. But if you guys have any questions for Brandon, you could go to Twitter. I've got a Twitter thread going. If you want to reply to my tweet there at Taylor Siebert, you can find Brandon on Twitter as well at Mowinkel. Brandon, if you want to put that in the chat, that would be awesome, so people can connect with you on Twitter there. And one of the things as I think about this as we kind of close things up is, if you want to go to the last slide, we'll just kind of leave it on that. I think that's a good slide to kind of show passion, purpose, employability.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Any school can do this. You guys, I think that's the cool part. You guys have executed you laid the roadmap, but every school that watches this, educator, admin, you guys have all the same things Milford does. It's just, how do you execute on that, and how do you be more purposeful with that? Letting students explore their passion, getting them those skills, like we talk about future ready skills as well. So the 4 C's are a great place to start. Getting kids equipped in communication. Are they exploring creativity, critical thinking, and collaboration? And then those specific job skills, right? Like welding or culinary arts or broadcasting. There's those specific job skills, and then the more soft skills too. And then through your organizations, right? Everybody has FBLA, FFA, all the different organizations that they can really find their purpose in. I think what you really hit home there is that they're they're seeing how to serve others, and that's what purpose is. I think is how can I help others, and that's what drives folks. And then if you can get all three of those working together, if your passion, your purpose, and your skill all come together, you're going to find a career and your journey is going to be really rewarding if you can merge all three of those together. And they might not all happen at the same time. They might not all happen at the same time. So um, I don't know if Shelly's. This is for you. Why do you always steal my ideas? I've been developing a lesson for my career's 8 ag unit on determining how vegetables get to our tables and writing thank you notes to all the people involved. I'll be brainstorming with you at some point. So
You know where I live, Shelley.
that's really cool. What's that?
You know where I live, Shelley.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Steal like an artist. Steal
Yeah.
like an artist, right? I want to learn more about that, what you're doing in your 8th grade ag unit there. Um, well, awesome, Brandon. Thank you so much for this time. If there aren't any other questions, I think we'll hopefully continue the conversation in Future Ready Educators. So we'll get this recording post, and if people have questions that watch the recording, we can have that in the comments in the thread. That's really what we're trying to drive home, especially this summer, is get outside your comfort zone a little bit. We're trying to build this community for those who are thinking ahead and want to help transform not only education but impact your community. And that's what Brandon's all about, is he's impacting his community. And hopefully, for us that are in rural areas of America, that we're creating opportunities for kids to come back, that have skills that they can come back to their hometown and not have to go to the city to do that. And I think on all those things, I think we're seeing some really cool things happen where kids are realizing they can come back because they can do a lot of things. They don't have to be in an urban area. They can be in a rural area to do those. They can work remote. They can use technology. And so we need to encourage that more. And so Brandon's living that out. We also need to encourage more students to become teachers, which I think is our next training, Brandon. So if you
Okay.
want to brainstorm on that, because as I was looking at our notes, um, I had in all caps, one of the main problems, we're not going to have any staff left. But you develop things like this really inspires staff, I would assume, right? Obviously, you had some turnover with retirement, but you got a chance now to kind of inspire this next generation of teachers. You want to touch on that, kind of queue up maybe a future training?
Yeah. So yeah, just we all know as educators that we're short. We're short a lot of staff, and Shelly and I went through the Teach in Nebraska website Wednesday night and just looked at all of the openings that are still out there for next year. And you look at the areas of science, math, any core area, I mean, any area in general, but how do you teach math if you don't have a math teacher? How do you teach English if you don't have an English teacher? It's going to make it really difficult to serve our kids because we just will not have the staff to even hire to fill those positions, which adds an additional burden to the staff we already have, which then leads to burnout, as we already know. And so, how do we get kids excited about entering this wonderful profession that has so many benefits, that is kind of taking a hit right now? Not kind of, it is. And how do we change the narrative around some of these false narratives that are out there in the world and that are being spread? And it's hard. It's going to take a concerted effort by all of us. And I think, as you and I spoke last time, Taylor, it's going to take people like you. I know you're connected to schools, but community members that stand up and say, look, we need quality staff. There isn't going to be anybody to hire at Henderson or at Heartland Public Schools because there's nobody out there to hire. And then when you go even further out into the state of Nebraska to more rural areas, then the people that are coming, or the people you're hiring, are the people that have a connection to the area. So how do you get those people to the universities, to UNK, to Wayne State, to get their degrees and then come back home? And so I think that's a challenge for all of us. I think it's a challenge for our communities, especially rural communities. Not that it isn't a challenge for urban communities either, because they're short staffed too. So this is a big, wide, broad problem. I've spoken to our congressional members about it when I'm out there. I don't think the sense of urgency is there yet. So I think somebody needs to spark that urgency amongst them. And we're trying, but it's a story we need to keep telling because it will impact all of us at some point if it already hasn't. Um, and it's heartbreaking. Luckily, we're full for next year. We have all of our staff hired, but I know that's not the case everywhere. And um, it's I can't imagine 3 years from now what this conversation is going to be like if we don't start getting some type of some programs in place to help with this. And one last story, part of my dissertation, one of the stories I collected from one of the gentlemen that I interviewed was this exact thing. He spoke to, or he has created a culture within his school community where he offers kids jobs to come back before they even leave. And it's a really, really cool story. It was the very last interview I did. It's narrative number 12 if you ever want to dig into my dissertation. But it's a story worth reading because he puts that out there like, hey, you had a great experience here at Cypress Heights High School. Why don't you come back and work here? And while you're working on your degree, I'll hire you to be a para, or I'll hire you to work in the kitchen, or you'll come back and coach. Like he's put this plan in place too, and he spoke nationally about this as well. But anyway, that is a conversation that needs to be had. This conversation we all need to have, and it starts in forums like this, and somewhere
Yeah.
along the line it'll catch on.
Yeah, I want to learn more about that. Brandon, would you do us a favor? I know you're headed out of town here, but could you create a post in the Future Ready Education space with kind of a brief overview of your dissertation with a link
Yep.
to that?
Yep.
I think that would be super valuable for people to read through. I know you shared and I kind of read your personal story that was in there, and so
Yeah.
if anyone wants to read, how many pages was it?
237, I think it ended up.
Anyone wants some Memorial Day weekend reading if you get it posted before then. If not,
I will.
whenever you get time. So awesome. Well, thanks, Brandon. Safe travels and appreciate your time and keep up the great work. And hopefully, this inspired some of you to create something similar in your school or take little nuggets from this and help students explore their passion, find purpose in what they're doing, and find at least one skill that they can take that can help them in their careers. So thanks again, Brandon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.